Hey guys, before we get started, I wanted to tell you about a free resource on the Scrivener Solutions website. We all know that consistency builds trust, but somehow getting on that consistency train can be hard. Finding the time, thinking of what to say. Oh my goodness, believe me, I feel your pain. I get it. I know all too well the struggle. Sometimes we make things way too complicated for ourselves. You don't need a complicated plan to become consistent with your content marketing. Working that consistency muscle by using a super simple content plan will give you a big win, and you can build upon that. We have a free resource to help you. Go over to scrivenersolutions.com/checklist and download the super simple strategy to jumpstart consistent content creation checklist. Yes, it's a long name, but all you have to remember is scrivenersolutions.com/checklist, and you can get that instant download. Get started on the right foot and make the commitment to consistency. Other things will follow, but consistency really does matter. Start super simple and download the checklist at scrivenersolutions.com/checklist. All right, now onto the show. Hi, I'm Gayla Scrivener, ex-corporate girl and now work-from-anywhere adventure seeker. Creating a work-from-anywhere lifestyle isn't without its challenges, but those challenges certainly don't overshadow all the many benefits. What breaks my heart is seeing folks stuck and unhappy in a career and lifestyle when they want more out of life. I believe that we all have the opportunity to create the life of our dreams and earn a living in fun and creative ways to make our dream lifestyle a reality. You too can experience wonderful adventure and freedom as you live life on your own terms. In this weekly podcast, I share experiences when it comes to growing a lifestyle business through guest interviews, content marketing experience and perspectives, virtual leadership lessons, and I'll even throw in some travel adventures. My hope is through all the interviews, the tips, advice, and personal experience, you'll be inspired and motivated to keep going and creating your dream lifestyle. Life's an adventure. There's no time but the present to live life to the fullest. Hi there, and welcome to today's show. I'm glad that you're here today because this is a continuation of the series on networking. You know, last week you met Greg Peters, the reluctant networker. And if you didn't catch last week's show, be sure to go back and have a listen. In keeping with this month's series about networking, I thought I'd talk a bit about attending my first actual big conference in a very, very, very long time. I went to Podcast Movement in Nashville, Tennessee at the beginning of August. You know, I became accustomed to not having these types of events, and as an introvert, I like small groups and a lot of alone time, but I was excited. I was truly excited to finally attend a live event. And I know me. Who else knows me better than me? But I know that I needed to have some intention behind meeting new people at the conference. If I didn't, I'd try to hide out in the shadows and just listen. Now, like most everyone on the planet, I didn't go to many events or any events really, especially when it came down to business conferences within the last 18 months or more. Of course, there were some virtual things, and I participated in that like a lot of us did, but no live events because, of course, we were all on lockdown. Now that events are finally happening again, many of us are getting out and attending. Now, it's my belief that you must have some sort of element of live networking to really grow your business, whether your business is an online business or not. When I left the corporate world and took that leap in figuring out how to grow an online business and be able to work from anywhere, I thought all I needed to be was online. But I quickly found out that to find the best clients, to find the clients that I really wanted, I needed to make new friends. I needed to hang out and hang around different people. I needed to be around people face to face. Now, back on episode 174, I shared my beginnings of networking intentionally by joining a weekly professional networking group. If you hadn't listened to that, go back a couple of episodes. I was with this networking group, and it was a referral-based, for a number of years and met some fantastic people. But after time, I needed to make a shift to grow even further, both personally and professionally. I made the decision to leave that professional networking group and replaced it with focusing on small group mastermind and attending a few intentional live events. For me, the small group mastermind was what I needed to challenge me to think differently and hold me accountable for some big things that I wanted to do, and my peers in that group held me accountable to follow through on some of my big goals. The events that I planned on going to would allow me to meet new people and get out of my element. I need to shake things up with my schedule sometimes. And not only to learn something at the event, going to an event, it's packed full of great information. But I think that live events are super important to get out of my comfort zone of being behind the scenes for our clients, and then just shaking up my introverted ways and get out there and just meet folks. The more that I do these things to get over myself and get out of those ways that I have as an introvert to make new acquaintances at a live event. I have to tell you, with not having live events in 2020, doing it again by going to Podcast Movement just, a few weeks ago, I realized how comfortable I got in not going to events. Isn't that funny? I love being in my quiet cocoon in my own element. But then again, I loved being there and pushing myself to get out of my self-built cocoon. So I'm so glad that I went. I usually attend events like Podcast Movements all by myself. Robert may travel with me to wherever it may be, but he usually does his own thing while I go to the event. So being by myself, I knew I should be intentional in making the most out of the event. Way back in episode number 69, I talked about how to make the most of live events. I'll have a link to that episode in the show notes so you can go back and have a listen. And in that episode, I mentioned that for live conferences, you should go there to learn, but you should also participate. If there's any after hours mingling, go. If there are lunch breakout sessions, go. Whatever there is that you can attend, go. Immerse yourself in the event. A few other key things that I focused on when attending Podcast Movement were, number one, since this was a big event with a lot going on at the same time, I wanted to chunk it down into smaller bits to make a few good connections. Of course, I wanted to learn more about podcasting because after all, that's what the event was all about, right? But I was more interested in meeting individuals. So my first goal, I looked at the attendee list and wanted to connect or reconnect with people that I already knew online. When you've been in business for a while and go to events like this or participate in some of the same online courses or hang out in some of the same online places, you're bound to know someone at one of these kinds of events. For me, there were people attending that I knew from online and was so ready to see them in person instead of just through the computer screen on a Zoom call. These folks, we already knew each other, but never met in person. It was fantastic to see them and get to know them on a more personal level, having lunch and just hanging out. There was a sense of comfort of meeting these long-lost friends. For this introverted girl, that was good because that kind of broke the ice for me. I didn't stay with my online friends the entire time. I needed to break away from them as well. Otherwise, I'd just hang out with them and not meet anyone new. I think it's important to venture out and meet some folks that I had absolutely no contact with before, ever. I was intentional in going to the presentations. And the second thing that I did was sit next to people that I didn't know. This got me out of my comfort zone of avoiding being a wallflower. It's so much easier to make small talk in a smaller room than going up to a stranger in a big event hall. I met some wonderful people and people that I didn't expect to meet just by being in proximity to them and striking up a conversation. I even met a few podcast hosts who I follow and ended up talking with them and having a fantastic time. I hope I wasn't too creepy for them. I don't know. They didn't call security or anything like that, so maybe I wasn't too creepy. But another way of meeting people that I wanted to do and I was intentional about, I didn't do it all the time, but the third way was I wanted to go up and thank the presenter. I went to a lot of the breakout sessions, not just the main sessions, but some of these breakout sessions. And some of them were not what I expected. And some of them I was like, well, am I wasting my time because this does not pertain to me at all? And I went ahead and just sat there to expand my mind. But then there were some that really, I was just moved to go up to the presenter and introduce myself and thank them for being there and make small talk. And in fact, ask them if they would be a guest on my podcast. So, it's a really cool way to meet folks. And the presenters are very open on meeting new individuals so that, it's just a wonderful thing. Then this is the best part of the event. And it doesn't happen at the event. Not usually anyway. The fourth thing on being intentional about going to live events, it's the follow-up after the event. Drop folks who you meet at a live event a note, whether it's a private social message, an email, or, wait a minute, get this. If you actually have their address, why not send a good old-fashioned card or a fun postcard? Paper mail. What a rarity. From the event, you should either be following them on social or have started to follow them on social. Interact with them. It's a good thing. Now, ideally, the sooner the better for your follow-up after any event. Just a friendly note, maybe even an invitation to talk a bit further on the phone or a Zoom call. And I admit, I was not as quick about follow-up after podcast movement as I felt I should have. Call it an excuse, but it was just one of those things. There's always, in all of our schedules, so many things that's going on, right? But I ended up having some focused family time to celebrate my grandson's first birthday right after the event. And then I crammed in 2 weeks of extreme focus office work before Robert and I took off to Wyoming for one of our nomadic trips. Now, actually, this nomadic trip is not as long as some in the past, but I'll catch you up on that a little adventure later. So when we're traveling like that, especially when it's a little nomadic travel, I tend to get a little extra social on Instagram or just a little social wherever I'm at when I'm on those little trips. So that's when I took the opportunity to have fun with making, following up with those contacts of the new connections and the old connections. I did that when we had a lot of windshield time. Now, Robert does most of the driving, so I'll pitter and do other things in the passenger seat. All the while trying not to get car sick. That's a challenge that I always have to do, wanting to be productive on the road and not get car sick. Still training myself. Overall, it was my first time at Podcast Movement, and I really didn't know what to expect before going, but I really, really had a great time. What I loved the most was seeing in person several individuals who I met from them being a guest on my podcast. Now, some of these guests from this past year I have only met through online. And I'm excited because I met many who will be future guests. It's pretty cool. Even though I was a little apprehensive in going at first because, this introverted girl was out of practice in going to events like that. I'm ready for more. Well, I'll wrap things up for today. And be sure to catch the show next week when my good friend Kat Williams joins me. She is so gosh darn bubbly. She seems to be the most well-connected person I know in and around my current home base of Springfield, Missouri. Kat is the founder of Courageous Business Connect, a fantastically positive and different networking group. I admire Kat because she created her successful networking group in a sea of other networking groups in her local area. And then COVID hit. I loved hearing about her group's innovative ways to keep her face-to-face meetups going. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, because you'll get notifications of not only next week's episode, but all the upcoming episodes when they publish. Oh, one last thing. If you're a branding consultant or a copywriting consultant, marketing consultant, and don't want to manage a whole bunch of employees or independent contractors, yet want to have recurring income from your clients, let's talk. Scrivener Solutions offers white label content marketing services. You concentrate on creating the branding and marketing plan for your clients and let the Scrivener Solutions team help you implement your plan. Go over to scrivenersolutions.com/white label to find out more details about how you can tap into our experience and our systems to create recurring income for your branding consultancy. Again, go to scrivenersolutions.com/white label and schedule a call. Well, thanks for listening. Until next time, have a fantastic week.